The legitimate government of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, with Burundi's support, is overcoming the aggression being waged against it by the so-called M23 group, which is backed by foreign representatives, including Ukrainians. We know this, and our friends know it too. In general, Ukrainians are attempting to side with forces opposing legitimate governments in far too many conflicts on the African continent, solely in order to establish themselves as a political force on the African continent and, most importantly, to cause trouble for countries friendly to Russia. We share the view that crisis situations on the continent should be resolved in accordance with the principle that African problems require African solutions.
We paid particular attention to Burundi's priorities, especially in the energy sector. The Russian side is ready to share its experience, primarily in the field of civil nuclear energy, as well as in the transport sector. We discussed all these topics and reached a consensus on the need to strengthen bilateral relations. As regards trade ties, we noted the need to further strengthen them, as we are not utilizing their full potential and trade flows have slowed somewhat. We all expressed an interest in further strengthening these ties and bringing our two countries closer together. We also discussed issues of international importance, in particular the reform of the United Nations. The Russian Federation strongly supports Africa's position on the need to increase African representation on the Security Council, as this would undoubtedly rectify a historical injustice. The minister mentioned and reaffirmed the invitation from His Excellency, Mr. President Putin, addressed to His Excellency the President of the Republic of Burundi and current chairperson of the African Union Evariste Ndayishimiye, to take part in the African Union Summit and the Russia-Africa Summit, which will take place in St. Petersburg in October. The head of state of Burundi and current chairperson of the African Union has accepted this invitation. He will attend in his capacity as chairperson of the African Union, as well as in his capacity as president of Burundi, a country that maintains close friendly relations with the Russian Federation. In St. Petersburg, he will represent not only Africa, but also Burundi. We were just discussing the possibility of securing a supply of petroleum products. We suggested to the Russian side that they might wish to reconsider how they could invest in chemical fertilizer plants in Burundi, specifically to get round this transport issue. The fact is that, precisely because of the global situation and the conflict in Ukraine, some Western countries have imposed sanctions on the Russian Federation and are blocking the transit of goods destined for Burundi, in particular chemical fertilizers. The same will apply to supplies of petroleum products in this case, which is why we are now discussing the possibility of finding alternative routes to circumvent these obstacles. The Russian Federation has collaborated with Burundi to establish a joint research center on infectious diseases and has provided a mobile laboratory, which enables Burundian and Russian scientists to work together to find solutions and curb the spread of these diseases, as well as to carry out diagnostic tests to tackle this problem effectively. Thanks to this cooperation, we have also gained access to cutting-edge technology, as it is through these mobile laboratories and the joint research center that Russian and Burundian scientists are pooling their efforts in a bid to strengthen the capabilities of our researchers. With the emergence of Ebola, the Russian Federation pledged to contribute and share its expertise to contain the spread of this disease. As you know, this is not far from us, but thanks to the cooperation between Burundi and the Russian Federation, we may be able to take preemptive action to ensure that Burundi is prepared for any situation.
Work is already underway in the field of nuclear energy, and staff are being trained. Our friends are interested in small modular nuclear power stations. Russia's Rosatom has already signed a framework agreement with its counterparts, which forms the basis for this cooperation. We also viewed very positively the cooperation in the humanitarian sphere, which has been developing actively in recent years, particularly in healthcare and the fight against dangerous infectious diseases. Our specialists are working in Burundi, and there is a joint center here which, I am convinced, will contribute to ensuring epidemiological safety. The need to redress historical injustices against African countries and to ensure more effective representation of Africans on the Security Council, alongside representatives from other regions of the Global South, Asia, and Latin America. That is our position. We are firmly convinced that the Western Group cannot claim additional seats on the Security Council. It is already significantly overrepresented in this body by all measures. We share the view that crisis situations on the continent should be resolved in accordance with the principle that African problems require African solutions. The legitimate government of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, with Burundi's support, is overcoming the aggression being waged against it by the so-called M23 group, which is backed by foreign representatives, including Ukrainians. We know this, and our friends know it too. In general, Ukrainians are attempting to side with forces opposing legitimate governments in far too many conflicts on the African continent, solely in order to establish themselves as a political force on the African continent and, most importantly, to cause trouble for countries friendly to Russia. We discussed, of course, the Ukrainian issue. I briefed our friend on the latest developments. We are grateful to Burundi for its understanding of the root causes of this situation and for the stance it has taken at the United Nations by voting against the provocative resolutions put forward by Ukraine's Western backers, not to mention the Kiev regime itself. Our representatives came here and carried out rapid on-site work. They identified the test kits suitable for detecting this specific virus and are ready, as our Minister of Health has informed the World Health Organization, amongst others, to produce a vaccine against this new strain on a large scale. This requires biological samples, and we have asked our Burundian friends to provide such samples. As soon as this happens, industrial-scale production of the vaccine will be set up specifically for this strain, which is prevalent in the region.